The wind carried the scent of salt and decay as Lisa stepped onto the deserted beach. The moon hung low, its pale glow painting the waves in silver streaks. A distant buoy clanged against the stillness, a hollow sound swallowed by the vast emptiness. Lisa had always loved the ocean, its endless horizon a reminder of freedom. But tonight, something felt wrong. She couldn't place a tan, unsettling hush, the way the tide seemed hesitant, retreating too slowly, as if reluctant to expose what lay beneath. She took a deep breath, the crisp night air cooling her lungs. Her friends had dared her to spend the night alone on Blackwater Beach, a stretch of coastline notorious for shipwrecks and whispers of disappearances. Legends spoke of the black tide, an unnatural current that surfaced once every decade, claiming those who strayed too close. Lisa scoffed at the tales until now. She set up her small tent near the dunes, her flashlight casting long, flickering shadows. The campfire crackled weakly, struggling against the damp air. Lisa wrapped her arms around her knees, staring out at the inky expanse before her. Then, she saw it. A figure, standing knee-deep in the water. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. The silhouette was motionless, featureless against the dark waves. Had someone else dared to venture here? Another thrill-seeker? She narrowed her eyes, but the figure remained still. Then it moved, not forward, not backward, but sideways gliding, as though floating just above the surface. Lisa shivered. "Hello?" she called, her voice swallowed instantly by the wind. No response. The figure stopped, and then, ever so slowly, it turned its head toward her. Lisa scrambled to her feet, knocking over the lantern. The fire sputtered, shadows stretching and convulsing like living things. The figure in the water remained unmoved, its attention locked onto her. Then came the whisper. Low, guttural, like the voice of the ocean itself, hissing words she couldn't understand. The air thickened, pressing against her chest. Lisa stumbled backward, her pulse hammering. And then, the tide began to change. The water receded unnaturally fast, sucking away the shore, revealing jagged rocks and something, pale, half buried in the wet sand. Bones. Rows of them, as if the beach had been hiding a mass grave just beneath its surface. Lisa turned to run, but the whisper turned into a wailed, deafening shriek that ripped through the night. The figure lunged, moving faster than humanly possible. Darkness swallowed everything, and the tide came in once more. Lisa awoke with a start, her lungs burning as she gasped for air. Cold water lapped at her body, the taste of salt thick on her tongue. The world was spinning. Had she blacked out? She clawed at the wet sand, pulling herself away from the encroaching waves. Her heart pounded. The figure, was it gone? She turned, scanning the shoreline. The beach was empty, eerily still. No sign of the fire, the tent, or even her footprints in the sand. It was as if she had never been here at all. It was just a nightmare, she muttered, though the words felt hollow. But then she noticed something. The bones were gone, but the sand beneath her hands was wet, stained with something darker than seawater. The whisper returned, closer now, curling around her ears like fingers tightening around her throat. Lisa ran, her feet slipping on the treacherous sand. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to get away. But no matter how far she ran, the beach never seemed to end, stretching infinitely under the bleak moonlight. A sound splashing. She turned her head just enough to see. The figure was back. But this time, it wasn't alone. Shapes emerged from the water, crawling onto the shore with jerky, unnatural movements. They were human-like, but their limbs were too long, their eyes hollow and black like the depths of the ocean. Lisa screamed and forced herself forward, her legs burning with exertion. The dunes loomed ahead if she could reach them. Maybe she could escape. Maybe. Then something wrapped around her ankle. A wet, clammy hand. Lisa fell hard, her chin striking the ground. Pain exploded in her skull as she twisted, kicking wildly. The thing gripping her leg dragged her backward toward the waves. She clawed at the sand, nails ripping, lungs heaving. "No! Please!" she sobbed, thrashing as the cold water swallowed her legs, then her waist. The whispers became deafening, filling her mind with incomprehensible words, drowning out her screams. A final gurgling gasp escaped her lips before the ocean closed over her head. Lisa's body went limp as the cold darkness embraced her. But death did not come. She opened her eyes underwater. The ocean was not black, but glowing a strange, eerie blue radiating from below. Shadowy figures surrounded her, their elongated limbs drifting in the current. They watched her, eyes void-like abysses, yet filled with ancient hunger. Lisa tried to scream, but no air escaped. Her body felt weightless, as if she were suspended between life and something far worse. A voice echoed through the deep, not in words, but in feeling. A message carried on the tide itself. "Join us." Lisa's limbs twitched against her will. Her skin tingled, a sensation like thousands of invisible fingers pulling at her flesh. The figures circled closer, their skeletal hands outstretched. One brushed against her face, leaving a trail of numbness in its wake. The realization struck her like a tidal wave she was becoming one of them. She thrashed, fighting the current, but the force was too strong. Her veins felt like they were filling with the salt of the ocean itself, her bones hollowing out like the dead remains buried beneath the shore. Her lungs screamed for air, yet her body no longer needed it. Above, the surface of the ocean seemed so far away, distorted like a dream she could barely remember. The world she once knew faded, replaced by the embrace of the deep. Then, silence. Blackwater Beach remained still, as it always had. The tide rolled in, washing away all traces of what had transpired. The moon cast its cold light upon the waves, indifferent to the secrets hidden beneath. A lone figure stood at the shore, watching, waiting. And when the next tide came in, the whispers began anew.